Welcome guys! So recently the chess Olympiad has finished, and if you haven't heard, the Indian team completely wiped the field with everyone. They won the gold medal for both men and women. Complete domination. Anyways, I wanted to make a video talking about my own country, Portugal, in this chess Olympiad. However, well, even though there's a few good games here and there, we kinda didn't have the best run. So as I was browsing through the games, however, I found this very interesting game. It didn't have the best outcome for us, but I think there's a lot of very nice fundamental chess principles that can be highlighted here, and I'm sure you can learn a thing or two. So yeah, today I'm only chess because we'll be having like the live times of the players. And yeah, this game was played with black. We have Filipa Pipiras, which is like the best woman, the highest rated Portuguese woman, I believe. And with white, we actually have a very popular streamer. We have Jess February from South Africa. Anyways, let's just get into the game. Now, white here started with e4, we have c5, and after knight f3, it seems like we have a standard Sicilian, but after e6, Jesse here plays bishop to e2. And okay, this isn't the most standard move order, but it's nothing out of the ordinary here. Black continues with knight c6, we have castles, d6, maybe d5 would be a little bit more ambitious. There's nothing stopping her from going d5, so it also gains a lot more space. So yeah, she plays d6, stopping this e5 thrust when she plays knight f6, pretty logical. Here Jesse plays c3, and this is a plan I like a lot because, well, white simply has a very concrete plan, and I also like playing this a lot because I like playing simple chess. Anyways, here Filipa first hits this pawn, so obviously this d4 pawn doesn't work. So Jessie simply prepares it, she plays queen c2 and still hangs to this d4 idea. Now Filipa here plays bishop d7, and as you can see, she already spends quite a bit of time for this move. Jessie simply continues with her plan, and now d5 by black. Again, this d6, d5 seems like it's wasting a little bit of time, and maybe white can be a little bit ambitious and try e5, but Jesse here just decides to exchange the tension and plays e takes on d5. Now here black retakes with the pawn, simply opening her bishop, also fortifying this e4 outpost, just controlling the center, pretty logical. And after a trade also on c5, black pretty much solved all of her problems, and I'd classify this as a pretty successful opening for black. Now here white tries developing the bishop to g5, just pinning the knight. We have h6, posing some questions for this bishop. She decides to keep it on h4, pinning the knight, right? And after castles, now Filipa will actually go for a pretty interesting plan. Jessie simply continues developing her knights, and we have rook c8, which looks like pretty innocent developing, but it actually has some very evil ideas in mind because it aligns the rook with the queen. It kind of x-rays from afar, and it will be pretty useful in a second, as you'll see. Now here Jesse continues with knight to b3, just striking at this bishop. We have bishop to b6, and now after rook to d1, rook a d1, simply developing. This is where the fun starts. This is where I ask you to pause the video and try to figure things out for black. Now there isn't really a knockout move that wins the game for black, but there's actually a pretty interesting concept that relates positional chess and initiative. So yeah, you can pause for a couple seconds, for minutes, hours, calculate till checkmate, I don't know. Okay, so hope you had a crack at it. Now in this position you can continue in several ways. For example, rook e8, bishop e6, just reinforcing the pawn, and a couple others, but the point is that there's really a very energetic way to continue here, and that way starts with g5, and it gets rid of this annoying pin, and it comes with a very strong initiative because the bishop is really forced to g3, and now you play knight to e4, and this move is amazing. First, you're putting pressure on the bishop, you're putting pressure on f2, you're preparing f4 and f5, your king here less completely safe. Also, maybe you'll bring the queen someday, and the cherry on top, this pawn is untakeable. Why is this pawn untakeable? Like I was saying, this rook here comes with venom, and a fork is just begging to be played. Not now, because the knight is hanging. So first Filipa would exchange the knight for the bishop, and after the knight is taken, now the fork hits, and yeah, she would just win a queen exchange. Now this didn't happen in the game, but after knight to e4, Jesse decided to try knight f to d4. This is already a mistake pointed by Stockfish, and the engine just hates this move because it's quite initiative filled for black, and black would just throw everything at white right now. And he was suggesting something like queen here, you know, just getting rid of the pin, putting pressure here, and maybe this is about equal. But the point is that after knight f to d4, now you have to find a way to continue. Here Filipa continued in the same aggressive fashion, and that's how you should continue here. She played f5, just looking to use her initiative. Now this kind of forces a trade and a bishop here, right? Because this square was basically the only square that the bishop could run to, so that it doesn't get trapped. But now queen e7, just hitting the bishop, it forces the bishop to go to d4. But now c5, and again this bishop is just running away for his life. We have bishop to e3, and now f5, pushing the bishop further back to c1. And yeah, the bishop was played like 6 or 7 moves, and has ended up in his initial square. This is just depressing. Anyways, the players have led us to the second critical position that I want to discuss. Now here, as you can see by the bar, black has a sizable advantage, but it's not trivial at all how to continue here. So this is the point I want to discuss. You can build up these strategical advantages, but how can you even convert them? So again, pause the video and try to think a little bit. Okay, so if you pause the video again, really props to you, because this position is freaking insane. This position is very complicated to assess because, well, you're throwing your kingside pawns at the opponent's king, just trying to murder him, and these positions always turn to complete chaos. But let's try to assess it now. Filipa here realized this was a critical position, so she spent about 20 minutes. However, she played actually a blunder. Now this move looks pretty good as you see it, because it pins the knight to the king. You're threatening c4 to win the piece. However, let's first understand why it doesn't work before looking at other moves. The point is that to not allow black to play c4, white himself plays c4, and now his position is just gonna open up. And if black tries the only reply to not let white free, in this case d4, this is the best try. Actually, there's a very simple yet deadly resource that's super easy to overlook. White can simply bring a rook to this file, and there's no way to stop bishop f3 or bishop d3. And yeah, this is just awful. But if the queen tries going to b7, well, bishop f3 discontinues the pin, and this is game over. If the queen tries running the other way, again the bishop comes here. There's no way to escape the pin. If you go to a random place, well, now the queen takes. So yeah, inescapable. And now it's gonna be extremely hard to play for black, which is unfortunate because she found the right ideas before. So let's see what she could have done instead of bishop here. Now, another way to continue the initiative is actually bishop here, aligning the bishop. Instead of going to this diagonal, just straight up going to f5 and x-ray the queen, maybe threatening knight e3, hitting the rook and winning the exchange. Now here there's actually an insane line that I wanted to show. Obviously, I don't think anybody would see this unless you're like a super GM, but let's take a look here. White can accept this pawn because after knight e3, they can block the attack with the bishop, temporarily sacrificing the exchange. And after taking, it seems like black has this very nice move, queen e1, just basically murdering the king, right? The knight is gonna escape, delivering a check with the queen, and it just came over, right? However, white has rook d1, so not so fast. If knight e3 just takes and takes and takes, so white would be chilling here, right? The problem is that this is insane, but black is actually able to play rook e8, rook f8. What is happening here? But you can sacrifice the queen, and the queen is untakeable because no matter what you do here, you're just losing. For example, if you push here, simply knight here, delivering a check, and this leads to checkmate. If you try to push the other pawn, simply knight here, you block the escaping square, and this is checkmate. And at last, if you try to push this pawn, now knight here, and again the game is over, because after king f2, rook here is checkmate because of the pawn, the knight, everything working in ridiculous harmony. So yeah, in this position you can't actually take the queen, so instead you'd have to play something like you can see the computer suggests something like this, but things just, come on, this is just inhuman, literally. h4, what the hell is happening? So let's go back to something more realistic. Instead, in the game, instead of going for this crazy complication, obviously this is a very possible line, but another seriously good candidate move is actually queen to f7. But this move is not easy to see, because, well, you're just going ham at white, fully using your initiative, and all of a sudden you just hold back. And this is extremely difficult to assess when you can do this, but as you can see, white is limited to the first 3 ranks, and it doesn't have a very obvious way to exploit now that you've defended this pawn. Also, you don't commit the bishop already to any diagonal, and yeah, white doesn't really have a very good way to continue. For example, now if c4, you can play bishop to f5, now aligning the bishop with the queen, and if something like bishop here, cutting the diagonal, now f3 is just deadly. If takes, you can infiltrate the queen, sacrificing the knight, because the white king is just too exposed on the white squares. You can play something like this, give some checks, and infiltrate. So okay, this was way better, but very hard to see. But another alternative is to play c4. Since white wanted so desperately to play c4, just play c4 yourself. However, here you can see d4, and now white's position is slightly better. This knight is way more active, but is still a little bit cramped. And I guess if you find enough time, you can push your pawns, and you have your own really amazing pony here. So maybe you can also try to create something here. This would be better, no doubt, than this bishop a4. But yeah, this was not how the game continued. Instead, like we've seen, we have this bishop to a4, and sadly, this is not obvious, but it's a blunder because of this idea. And now the game continues with bishop here, trying to desperately hit the rook. The knight obviously cannot take because of the queen, right? But it doesn't matter, because here Jessie simply plays bishop f3, hits the knight. She temporarily sacrifices the exchange, but just very temporary, because now she will win back the knight. It's just completely being massacred by this pin. So yeah, Philippa tries bringing the rook, but after bishop takes, now white is threatening bishop here. Discover check to win the queen, so king to g7 is played, running away from the white squares. And now f3, the bishop is fixated here, and now it's pretty much just a matter of technique to finish the game. Philippa just runs out of the pin, she plays queen d6. We have queen here, blocking the advance of this maybe dangerous passed pawn. Now there's still a pin, there's still maybe a couple ways that black can cause problems, so Philippa doesn't give up yet. She hits this knight here, we have knight back, we have queen here, maybe pinning the knight. It sort of looks like white all of a sudden has a very restricted position, but not really, because a3 and the queen is kicked back. We have b3 kicking the bishop, bishop here trying to exploit the pin, but obviously Jessie knows better. She plays rook here, just trying to go for exchanges. Maybe it's an inaccuracy, but she's playing simple chess. She gets away from the pin and she's ready to trade. Here black continues with a5, trying to get some space. Jessie, like I said, goes for a trade, but before taking back, Philippa tries to complicate matters. She infiltrates with the rook, but now the queen gets even more into the black position. Now the pushed pawns are coming back to Aunt Black. Here black took the bishop. However, the knight now is infiltrating, and this rook here is it. So the rook tries to go here, taking back and returning for the defense, but maybe it's too late. The queen here gives a check, and with this knight now, it's just impossible to stop. The king goes back. We have knight here hitting this rook. Also, now maybe some checks are looming, so the rook goes up. This rook comes to this file, and this rook is just completely offset. She tries bringing it back, hitting the knight, but again, it's just a matter of conversion. She gives a check, king is forced here, and after a couple of checks, she plays here, giving a fork. The king goes down, she takes, and after takes, this rook comes here, and this is just a nail in the coffin, because after king up, check by the queen, king g6, rook e7, and this is just game over because the queen is not only threatened, but this also attacks f7, and after the queen moves, queen f7 ends with checkmate on the board. But yeah, it just goes to show that even when you have very promising attacking positions, sometimes you have to stop and think for a little bit. As you get better and better, your opponents will just start to punish your mistakes way more often. And for example, here c4 is just way too good for black. And yeah, you just have to realize when to take those breaks from attacking, and that's not easy at all. Even I have a lot of problems doing that. So yeah, it just comes with practice and comes by analyzing these types of positions just hundreds and hundreds of times over and over, like pretty much everything you learn in chess. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed and maybe learned a thing or two. Catch you in the next one. Bye.